So I was checking the map for something and stumbled over NATO Street? Well, there has to be a story behind that, so I got on the train to the village of Großkotzenburg. This isn't a place I'd ever thought about visiting before, and to be honest, I didn't expect much. Well, it turns out that it's particularly proud of its Roman heritage. 2,000 years ago, this was the edge of the Roman Empire, right at the point where the land border met the River Main. And remember that river, because it will become important later. The border was heavily guarded, and forts were built to house all those soldiers. If you look for the village church and find this wall, you might fall victim to this trip hazard. If so, you have literally stumbled on some history. This is the remains of the fort's south gate. The fort was built around the year 110 AD and apparently housed members of the fourth cohort of the Vindelici, a Celtic people that had been subjugated in 15 BC. By the middle of the 3rd century, the fort had been abandoned and very little of it remains today. A few more bits have been reconstructed, including part of the West Gate, but there's a rather more substantial part that is genuine, the remains of the Southwest Tower. The reason this still exists is that it was used as a prison until 1800. Not a very big prison, though. I have to assume that Großkotzenburg had either a very low crime rate or very tiny criminals. Some of the artefacts discovered here were sent to museums in Hanau. Others remained here at Großkotzenburg's own museum, which, when there isn't a pandemic, is open from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. on the second Sunday of every month. All of this is very diverting, but not what I came here for. So let's go back to that river I asked you to remember earlier. This is the Main. Now, not quite 2,000 years after Germany was on the front line of the Roman Empire, it found itself on the front line of the Cold War. But suppose hostilities had broken out, the NATO allies had to move their tanks and armoured vehicles east to meet the Warsaw Pact coming the other way, but all the bridges had been destroyed. How do you get across a river like the Main? The answer? Use an alternative crossing point. And that's what this is, or was. It's a ramp that goes all the way down to the river, and on the other side is another ramp. If needed to, you could quickly construct a pontoon bridge and drive your tanks across. Known to civilians as NATO ramps, they were dotted all over what was West Germany. Apparently, at least some of them had explosive charges hidden under fake manhole covers which could, if necessary, be detonated to prevent the enemy using the ramps, but I've found no sign of any here. I did find these plaques indicating the distance to the opposite bank. With the Cold War officially over, these ramps have now been abandoned in a show of optimism that we all hope won't one day bite us in the buttocks. Some have been dismantled, this one has stern signs to say that this is for use only by the authorities, and many are popular with swimmers, jet skiers and speedboat owners. So, curiosity satisfied. I can't say I recommend Großkotzenburg for a day trip, but if you are interested, it's just 2 stops on a local commuter train from Hanau, travelling towards Aschaffenburg, Laufach or Schöllkrippen.